All right, my next one is from Wendy, Pastor Steve, and she asks about Joshua 21:43.
Okay.
And she says, she quotes it, "So the Lord gave Israel all the land which he had sworn to give to their fathers, and they possessed it and lived in it." She says, "What exactly does this mean, ? As I understood, Israel never possessed all the land that the Lord has promised. Can you please explain this passage in more detail?"
Okay. First off, one of the things that you're going to have in this passage right here, let me look at it. I just want to make sure I'm reading it right. So they took possession. The Lord gave them rest all around. Not a man of all their enemies stood against them. The Lord delivered all their enemies into their hand. Not a word failed of any good thing which the Lord had spoken in the house of Israel. All came to pass. Okay. So when you're looking at this passage right here, it can't be talking about they got every piece of land that God, for example, promised them under the covenant with Abraham. It can't be saying that. It can't be saying that they got every piece of land that was promised to them under Numbers 34. Actually, in the book of Numbers, in chapter 34, it goes through and it gives the basically the boundaries of the land of Canaan that God was going to deliver to them. And so in the south, it starts at the Dead Sea, basically goes west to the Mediterranean. The whole Mediterranean Sea is their western border, and then it goes north of Tyre and Sidon, takes an eastward direction, and comes in north of the city of Damascus, and then it basically goes straight down from there again to the Dead Sea. At the time that they went into the land of Canaan, in the book of Deuteronomy, God said to them that they weren't going to get all the land basically when they first went in. Let me find the verse here. It's in Deuteronomy chapter 7. It's in verse 22. It says this: "And the Lord your God will drive out those nations before you little by little. You will be unable to destroy them at once, lest the beasts of the field become too numerous for you. But the Lord your God will deliver them over to you and will inflict defeat upon them until they are destroyed. And he will deliver their kings into your hand, and you will destroy their name from under heaven. No one shall be able to stand against you until you have destroyed them." And, it goes on and talks about get rid of idolatry and that kind of stuff. So by the time that you get done with the book of Joshua, they have all the mountainous areas. And so basically what would be called Judah is taken, what would be called Ephraim is taken, the whole area of the Galilee is taken. But the Philistines are still on the coast. And so they're dealing with the Philistines all the way up until the time of David. And so it's not until that time that they're able to drive the Philistines out. And there's some other areas. They never do get rid of Tyre and Sidon. Those guys become allies of Solomon at that time. But some of the other areas are ultimately conquered by Israel. And this is the point that I'm making. When God gave the first description of the land of Israel, it went all the way from the Euphrates River, which was significantly north of Damascus, and all the way down almost to the Sinai. And that's not something that you see in Numbers chapter 34. In Numbers chapter 34, what God does is he defines that down for this generation, and he says, this is what I'm giving you. And so it's the idea that he's given it to them right now. And at that point, when he does give it to them, he doesn't have them inhabit it at the very beginning because their population was too small to be able to effectively work the land, and there would be a danger of like you see in the passage in Deuteronomy of animals, specifically predators, multiplying and causing real problems. And so God made the promise that I'm giving you the land, but I'm going to drive them out from before you little by little until you've taken it all. And that's the promise that Joshua 21 is saying that God kept. Okay, and so basically, when you're looking at the situation between God and Israel, God gave them all of that's mentioned in Numbers 34. Whether or not they took it had to do with the complete obedience of the people of Israel. It's kind of like God's given it to you, but you need to reach out and take it. And so up until this point, every time that they'd reached out and taken part of the land, they got exactly what God had given to them. And then as you go through the rest of the history in the Old Testament, you see them getting more and more until you get to Solomon, and that's where you get to a major extent of that. And it, finally, at least most of the Numbers 34 section is taken care of. So, for example, the Philistines were driven out, and you have that. They never took Tyre and Sidon, though. And so you have that kind of thing. The whole point of this is that God's faithful. God gave it to them. If they had gone up against Tyre and Sidon would have fallen. They did go up against the Philistines, and the Philistines fell. And again, it's because it was Israel's land, and God gave it to them, right? Okay, and so that's what's being spoken about there. God did keep His promise to these people, but it was an ongoing promise that was going to be fulfilled down through a few hundred years. So,
okay,
hopefully that's clear as mud.
Yeah.